And United 1791, just use caution. I'm hearing on guard. There might be somebody south of DCA. They're saying that the altitude maybe be around 3,000 something feet. I'm not even showing a primary where they're supposedly saying he might be. So use caution. I don't see anything out there though. Yeah, 1791, what they're looking at apparently, once you turn your establish on that heading, it'll be about your 11 o'clock and 9 miles. Do you see anything out there? Okay, 45, 46, roger. There may be possibly something on the east side of the final. I'm not 100% sure. The Air Force is yelling about it on guard. So you can expect, I'll probably keep you high, and then I'm just going to take you to the west side. They said whatever it is on the east side, and it's moving southeast, so I'll probably just keep you high and take you to the west side. United 1791, roger, thank you. I'm still not seeing anything, not even a primary, but they seem pretty adamant that there's something there, so assuming there is, you can contact Tower 19-1. Have a good night.
Air Force on guard aircraft from Dallas 157 for 12 miles. You've entered an restricted area. Contact FAA immediately. Exit the restricted area immediately. Nearest point to exiting the restricted area is 4 miles to your southeast. Correction, that is 20 miles to your southeast.
Outside that.
Ronald Reagan 155 for 12 miles at 2,400 feet. Heading southeast. You enter the restricted area, exit the restricted area immediately, and contact FAA. Nearest exit point from the restricted area is 20 miles to your southeast. 13 at 3,000 feet last, heading southeast. You've entered the restricted area, contact FAA immediately, and exit the restricted area. Closest point of exit is 17 miles to your southeast. That's from Ronald Reagan, 151, 15 miles. 3,500 feet, tracking southeast. You've entered the restricted area. Contact FAA immediately. Exit the restricted area. Closest point of exit is 15 miles to your southeast.
On guard. Aircraft 17 miles southeast of Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 30 knots, 3,500 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 14 miles to the southeast. Exit restricted area immediately. Acknowledges transmission with an item and contact FAA immediately. Air Force on guard. Aircraft 17 miles southeast of DCA Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 35 knots. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 13 miles to your southeast. Squawk ident, acknowledge this transmission, contact FAA immediately and exit the restricted area. East of DCA Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 40 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 10 miles off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident, exit restricted area and contact FAA immediately. 2 miles southeast of DCA Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 30 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 9 miles off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident and contact FAA immediately. Exit restricted area immediately. The U.S. Air Force on guard aircraft 23 miles southwest of DCA Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 40 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 7 miles off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident, contact FAA immediately and exit restricted area immediately. Air Force on guard aircraft 25 miles southeast of Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, 40 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You're in a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 5 miles off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident, contact FAA and exit the restricted area immediately. Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading, speed 40 knots. At 1,900 feet, you've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 5 miles off your nose to the southeast. Squawk ident to acknowledge U.S. Air Force on guard aircraft 27 miles southeast of Reagan National, DCA, not squawking on a 150 heading speed 40 knots, altitude 2,100 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 3 miles off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledges transmission with an ident. Exit restricted area and contact FAA immediately. Miles southeast of DCA, Reagan National, not squawking on a 150 heading speed 30 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 1 nautical mile off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledges transmission with an ident. Exit restricted area and contact FAA immediately. DCA, Reagan National, not squawking, heading 150, speed 30 knots, altitude 2,900 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Restricted area's exit is 1/2 mile off your nose to the southeast. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident. Exit restricted area and contact FAA immediately. The area is 22 miles to your south. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident. Contact FAA immediately. Aircraft, this is the U.S. Air Force on guard, aircraft 9 miles southeast of DCA, not squawking on a 130 heading speed 33 knots, altitude 3,700 feet. You've entered a restricted area. You have airline traffic 10 miles to your southwest, northwest, co-altitude. Squawk ident, contact FAA immediately. Nearest exit to restricted area is 21 miles to your south. On guard aircraft 160 for 10 miles from DCA, not squawking on a 150 heading, 26 knots, altitude 3,000 feet. You've entered a restricted area. Nearest exit to restricted area is 20 miles to your south. Acknowledge this transmission with an ident. Contact FAA immediately.